Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. Last week I started making some modifications to my kitchen. Started off by making this cabinet right here, which is not really a typical cabinet. It doesn't have a toe kick, it's a little narrower. I'm going to make another cabinet today that has a toe kick. It's going to be more of a typical kitchen base cabinet, so stick around.
Hi, my name is Bob and I love my two-car garage.
Now we're going to make a traditional style cabinet. That is, it's going to have a face frame on it like this. Now these pieces right here are called stiles. The vertical pieces, the horizontal pieces are called rails. And typically they have some standard sizes. It varies a little bit, but this is the way I'm going to do it. My outside rails are going to be 1 3/4 wide. My top rail is going to be 2 inches wide. My interior pieces or rails or stiles are going to be 1.5 inches. And this bottom rail down here is going to be 1 1/8 inches. Now I'm going to cut these vertical outside stiles to length. Total height of my cabinet is 36 inches. I'm going to subtract 1.5 inches for my top, and I'm going to subtract 3.5 inches for my toe kick, which means that these guys are going to be 31 inches long. Now the overall width of my new cabinet is going to be 36 inches. Now I need to cut the top, middle, and bottom rail, subtracting for the width of my right and left stile here, which are 1 3/4 inches. So that means that my top, middle, and bottom rail are going to be 32.5 inches long. Alright, all my rails and stiles are cut for my face frame, and it's time to put it together. Only one way to do this, and that's with the pocket hole screw jig, the Craig jig. This is the best. I should get paid for advertising this thing because I love it so much. I'm going to use it right now for drilling some pocket hole screws on all of my rails to attach them to the stile. It's going to save me a ton of time. I'm going to use both glue and screws to put this together with. The screws themselves would be strong enough to hold everything together, but this is going to get painted. And if it's painted, there is going to be a little bit of movement in that joint. And right there along the joint where it moves a little bit, the paint will crack and it will show. So better to use both glue and screws on your joints. Got to decide what kind of material you're going to use. A lot of people use MDF or ultralight or even particle board, but you know what? It's not better. It swells up. It weighs a ton, and I don't want to carry that stuff around. Plywood is still the better choice. This is a 3/4 inch domestic maple that I'm going to use. It's going to paint up really nice. So choose plywood for your kitchen. It really is better all around. Now my cabinet is going to be 22 inches deep when it's finished, but I need to subtract for the thickness of my face frame. So that means I'm going to cut this piece 21.25 inches wide. All right, I'm going to cut my sides to length right now, and they're going to be 34.5 inches long, subtracting for the thickness of my top. I'm going to do this on my table saw, which is kind of scary sometimes because you got this big piece hanging out on the end that kind of wiggles around, but you can do it. You just got to be careful. Make sure your splitter's in place or your riving knife so that it doesn't kick back, because this is a typical situation where you get a kickback on the table saw. And now it's time to cut out my toe kick. It's going to be 3.5 inches this way, and it's going to be 3.5 inches this way. 4 inches is kind of the norm. I'm going to deviate from the standard a little bit here, so I don't know, just to be rebellious. You got to be careful when you cut this out, because I'm going to do it on a table saw, and this little piece wants to just fly away when you're doing the second cut on the table saw. So I'm going to probably go just a little bit short on both sides and then come back and cut the rest out by hand. Alright, I'm ready to cut my dados and such on my panels. So I've set up a little sacrificial piece here so I don't mess up my nice pretty little rip fence. I'm going to cut a rabbit across the top, and I'm going to cut a dado along the bottom. And this is another reason why I like cutting my face frames first. To cut this bottom dado, I can see exactly where it needs to be. I'm going to cut my bottom 35 1/8 so it'll hang over, the face frame will hang over just a little bit. I can cut that off with a flush cutting bit or just sand it off. Alright, we're ready to assemble this back side of the cabinet, the carcass, the panels in the bottom. I'm going to use 2-inch screws and glue wherever I can, wherever it doesn't show. Where it does show, I'm going to use 2-inch finishing nails and wood glue. I'm ready to attach the face frame to the cabinet. Now I'm going to glue it and nail it. I'm going to clamp it as well to get a nice tight joint right there, because it's going to show a lot. Alright, looking at this cabinet from the back side. If this was a upper cabinet, I would put a full back in it, but because it's a lower cabinet, I'm not going to. So you won't see it. It's going to be up against the wall. Now I'm going to put these little ledgers in here, these pieces. So I got a solid piece down here that's going to get screwed in right there. I got these little stretcher pieces that are going in here. And so one's going up there, and one's going up there, like that. These are going to get glued and nailed in. And then this piece right here is going to go across the back. That's really going to give it a lot of stiffness. And I made it extra wide so that if I have to mount my drawer guides to the back side, it'll give me something to mount to. This one opening here is just way too big for one drawer. So cut a little style right here, put some pocket hole screws on the back side, and this guy is going to go right in there like that. I'm going to make it 2 drawers instead of 1. I'm also going to put a plywood divider right in here like that. I'm going to add a piece, couple pieces like this right in here. That's going to give me a little extra to screw to or nail to when I put on my subtops. The last thing we're going to do is nail on this toe kick. We're going to glue it and we're going to nail it. Alright, well, I've shown you enough to make your own cabinet. Now obviously it still needs drawers and doors and needs to be painted, but that's subject for a whole nother video. This guy's ready to go. Don't forget, a man skilled in his work will stand before a king. So whatever you do, do your very best. People will notice.